First day's play done and dusted then in this fourth and final test at Ahmedabad. India ending the day 24 for 181 behind. They managed to take all 10 wickets of England after Joe Root won the toss. 6 of them came in that final session play. 5 English wickets and 1 of Shubman Gill. So a lot of the damage done in the afternoon session, as we tended to see in this time frame, even in that last test. It should make for a compelling conversation with Ian Bell and Sanjay Manjrekar on ESPN Cricket for Matchday, powered by Realme X7 5G and X7 Pro 5G. Sanjay, India's day?
Yeah, and interesting use of words, done and dusted. Day one, but fortunately not too much of dust on the pitch on day one. Very good test match day. I think India, if they were feeling a little aggrieved by all the talk around the pitch and the players not getting enough credit for that win, I think today was a way of them saying, look, this is much better pitch, and look what we've done. 205 all out after England winning the toss is an excellent bowling effort, but now the batsmen have to show that it's a great bowling effort by batting well. Shubman Gill has got a new set of problems, but that's for later. I would say a good day for India, and some spark shown by England through the way Stokes batted, and hopefully, for them, maybe day two brings more joy.
Yeah, that's an interesting first comment that Sanjay makes, Belly. All the criticisms coming from the England camp about the surfaces, you can understand where they were coming from. You can't quite fall back on that from the evidence of what we've seen today. It was a disappointing day for the bat for England.
Yeah, probably more disappointing than playing on real turning pitches, because I thought today was a good toss to win. It was good conditions to bat, and as you've said there, I think rightfully, I think India will be over the moon. To lose a toss on a good batting surface and get 10 wickets in a test match, absolutely happy. And then the batters have seen through what always is a tough last hour of a day. England showed a little bit of fight. I thought Jimmy Anderson again was immaculate with everything he did. I think 5 maidens, 1 wicket, but he doesn't have a lot of support there at the moment. Certainly with only Ben Stokes as the other seamer. So I thought India got through that really well tonight and have set themselves up for a good day tomorrow. So England are going to need to start well tomorrow morning, but credit to India again. We can't complain as an English side about any pitch. We had everything in our favour today. And did manage to come up with a good enough score. But we will see again. India have got to bat on it tomorrow.
What's the standout individual effort of the day, Sanjay? It's been a good collective effort from India right through this series. But in spite of the assistance for the spinners, or maybe the lack of it on this day, it just seems like Mohammad Siraj had a very significant impact on how things went today.
Yeah, because when you look at batting side, you look at the prize scalps. So which are the big wickets for England? You obviously think of Joe Root. Mohammad Siraj got him. Bairstow, another important player, somebody with experience. Siraj got him too. And then, of course, the well said Ben Stokes was the biggest fish for India that they had to net today. And that was picked up by Washington Sundar. So yes, the impact wickets were picked up by these two guys. But let's not undervalue the relentless pressure created by Akshar, who I thought didn't bowl as well as he's done earlier in the season. Ashwin did what Ashwin does. There was that spell when he got Ollie Pope out that particular over. Just the artistry of Ashwin wasn't displayed. But to answer your question, I think the 3 crucial wickets, the one that really made an impact and ensured that England didn't go past 250 or got 300 batting first, were those 2 wickets of Siraj and Washington.
Yeah, as it turns out, 2 guys who we didn't put the spotlight on ahead of this test match had a big impact. And is that just a reflection of England putting all their attention on Ashwin and Akshar and somewhere letting their guard down against the others, Belly?
I'm not too sure on that. I think that, as Sanjay just said, I thought relentless is a great word. I think India in the last 3 test matches as a bowling unit have been relentless. There's been no easy passages of play for England at all. And today, with conditions good to bat, they were just as relentless. And I think that is a point of test match cricket. You can't have individuals bowling well at times and other people not supporting them. So I think we always see the fifers and the people who take the wickets who get all the credit, but actually it's the support roles that are just as important. And today we saw that with India, little cameos and support, but the pressure was just always on England. And you always felt that even at 150 for 5, 2 wickets on that and England were back in trouble. I never thought England ever felt fully in control in the day. There were periods of play where they looked calm in defence, but they never got away from India. And I thought that was always a good place to be. Certainly when you lose the toss in a test match and it looks good conditions to bat, can you control the rate as a bowling team? Can you go at 2 and over? And I thought India did that brilliantly. And that would work in Australia, in England, and it worked brilliantly today in India. So fantastic as a bowling unit. And I think that word relentless was absolutely perfect for this Indian bowling unit at the moment.
Yeah, on an England front, after what we saw in the first test at Chennai, after England won the toss, almost surprised everyone, maybe even the home team. Does this look like just a batting team that's lost confidence or belief?
I would say it's probably a little bit more mental at the moment than it is technical. I mean, I think there's just a lot of the confidence has been knocked out of England's sails at the moment, unfortunately. I thought there have been little periods of play. I thought Ben Stokes looked really solid in his defence and his approach today. And we obviously saw Dan Lawrence play quite nicely towards the back end. Ollie Pope was fighting out. So there was little bits in there that looked quite nice. But as we know, test match cricket, but certainly when you win the toss on these surfaces, 50s don't necessarily win you test matches. And we saw, I think, Rohit Sharma, I remember that brilliant 100 in the second test match. We didn't know how good that innings was until the end of the test match. I think we would say the same today. If one of those England players had converted that start into 100, 140, 150, we'd probably be saying the same thing. We don't know how good that innings is. But at the moment, it feels like we're still a little bit light. No one's converted those starts.
If I wonder, Sanjay, if the chronology of the test surfaces had been different, had this pitch come after the first test with England high on confidence, even though it may have been more challenging the first Chennai pitch, whether it would have been a different story. We keep saying cricketers and sportsmen say, oh, we'll just forget about the last game, move on to the next one. But in reality, it does look like they've carried the ghosts of the last 2 games, if not just the last one, into this fourth one as well.
See, this is actually bringing out a larger issue that we see in Test cricket, especially around the world, where in any batting side you see 2 outstanding batsmen, and the rest just about Test standard guys who are averaging about mid-30s or late 30s at the first class level, and then trying to measure up to the international standards of batting. And that's the case with a lot of teams around the world. With England, you're seeing the lesser batsmen out of, Bairstow, Root, Stokes aside, trying to come to terms with what are the typical challenges in a test match in adverse conditions, loss of form, or low scores and bouncing back. So those set of problems are there with England, which are there with most teams around the world these days. But having said that, if England lose this test match and this series, it will not be so much about the batting disparity. It will be about the potency with spin bowling. And that is where India have almost like a warranty in hand with regards to winning the series, because they have a great combination to exploit these conditions in the shape of Ashwin, Akshar, and Washington Sundar as the third bowler. And the speeds and the styles of bowling that they had in the first test match, let's not forget, there was no Akshar Patel, and India missed him. Yeah. Even today, I looked at the average speeds of Akshar and Ashwin. It was for Akshar, it was close to 90. For Ashwin, 87, which is pretty quick by Ashwin standards. And then you have a best bowling and over today with an average speed of about 80. So how England bowl their spinners in this test match will really decide the outcome of the series. I don't think there is that much batting disparity. Of course, India is the better side, more accustomed to batting on these pitches. But the greater difference in making an impact and making the winning differences in the spin bowling department.
All right. Well, it's very early in this test match. India have only played 12 overs. They've only scored 24. They're over 180 behind. And England did turn things around after India looked good in their first innings in the last test match. They triggered what was an India collapse too. Forget about the story that happened after. So there is still a lot of cricket to be played. There are a lot more questions that do come in the theme of today's play, but they come from all of you. So let's take them as part of our hashtag Ask Matchday segment. Right. If you're watching us on our live Facebook and YouTube feed, start putting your questions and thoughts in. I'll try and scan through them and take some of the good ones for Ian and Sanjay. Make sure you put the hashtag. Let's take a few from Twitter. First up, And there are a couple on Akshar Patel, actually. This is from Mirante Unolu. What happens to Akshar if Jadeja returns? It's a good question. Sanjay?
It's a very good question, and it's again a problem of plenty. What happens to Siraj if Shami and Bumrah get fit? There's Ishant as well. So these are nice, healthy problems to have. If India are to play two spinners and with, let's assume, neutral conditions, I think Ashwin and Jadeja might get the nod. Jadeja purely because of his track record in test matches over the last so many years, and plus his batting contribution, which is greater than Akshar Patel that we've seen so far. But Akshar Patel, as a pure bowler, will be breathing down Jadeja's neck. That's for sure.
There's another one on Akshar Patel. It's not only about the selection call for India, it's also about the skill that he displays. Now, how would you rate Akshar's deception skills, especially on a pitch which is not offering that much turn? Ian?
Well, so far so good, isn't it? I think we saw a couple of loose deliveries, but that's it. And every time we've seen one or two, and we all like, well, where's that come from? And I've seen a lot of comments about that. So, look, I think that he's made a huge difference to India since missing the first Test match. His control, Sanjay's talked about his pace that he bowls. England have found it hard, and even today on a much better surface, they found it really hard. And I think what I remember of that first Test match was how well England swept the ball and rotated the strike. And he's just not allowed them to do that at all. And he's backed up Ashwin and actually probably outshone Ashwin today. But he's been absolutely incredible. And his skill level is seriously high. And someone, again, I could see being successful in any parts of the world. You know, his accuracy, if you lose the toss in a Test match and it's not in your favour, that's where you generally look at spinners to see what they've got. And I think he's got all the tricks. He's got the control, the confidence in the captain at the moment to get the ball early and make a breakthrough early in the game, but also hold an end up. So, and we've seen what he can do in the fourth innings and the third innings of a game, which is more in his favour. So lots of tricks and an incredible, absolutely incredible start to his Test career.
Would have been so interesting, Sanjay, if Akshar would have played that first Test on what was the least helpful surface after losing the toss to really see what Akshar Patel's about.
Least helpful in the sense there was turn in the pitch. From day one, there was turn, but it was very slow turn. And that's where I think Akshar Patel would have been better than Shahbaz Nadeem and Ravichandran Ashwin because of the natural speed that he has when he bowls. I'm assuming non-turning pitches overseas, he won't be able to get that ball across the face of the bat with the angle he gets on these pitches, which makes a straight ball even more dangerous. So he won't have that advantage. In this era of DRS, Akshar Patel's ability to get that ball back in, there are subtle variations that he does. Today, I don't know whether you guys noticed the ball that he was like old-fashioned armor where the seam was up and the ball actually curved back in. So he does all those things. He's hard to, charge to. We saw today as well. Somebody charged and he shortened the length and the batsman was stumped. So he has all those other facets as well. So you can't say that in Indian conditions, in these conditions, Akshar Patel is brilliant, and in unhelpful conditions overseas, he'll be completely sort of benign as a left-arm spinner. I think there's more to Akshar Patel than just this wicket taker on Indian turning pitches.
Well, I was going to say, luckily, I have faced him when he played for Durham. I faced him domestically in England, so I know he's good enough to play in English conditions. There's no doubt. Okay. It might be the fact that his role in the side is slightly different, very more like today. He might become the holding bowler. It might be they're looking at control, and the seamers that India have got lots of attacking seam options become the attacking option when they come to England. But there's no doubt, I remember him playing for Durham and he could just bowl one day from one end and like bowl maiden after maiden. So there's no doubt I think he has the attributes to be able to bowl overseas as well as he has done in these Indian conditions.
Yep, excellent point. Fair chance, or more than a fair chance, that with India taking these big squads to Australia and whatnot, that there would be a place for Akshar Patel on that personal chartered flight to England whenever that scheme is announced after the IPL. Right, let's take a couple of more questions. I can see some coming on our YouTube and Facebook feed. I'll take them in a bit. This is from Slithers. Why has Shubman Gill failed in this series so far? Is he having technical problems? Now, he scored that fine half century in the second innings in the first Test, Sanjay. After that, it's been hard work for most batsmen. But are you worried about Shubman Gill's form?
It's a typical happening that you see with young talent that come to the highest level. They look very good in the first couple of innings, and clearly there was class, there's talent, there's still class and talent in Shubman Gill, but there are certain deficiencies or weaknesses that every batsman has, and the opposition is quick to spot that. So that is exactly what's happening with Shubman Gill. If you look at his dismissals this series, there's been a particular area where the opposition has bowled him, and this is when the batsman as well starts thinking about his technique and what he needs that particular off attack. And to make a very simple, and it's very easy to observe what's going wrong. The problem is actually rectifying that problem, because it's so inherent and part of your basic game that he obviously has a trigger movement where he goes back, and the front foot then remains stationary, which leads me to believe that the weight is still on the front foot and it goes nowhere. It just stays there. And that's why if there is a ball that is around full length area, and if it does something, because his front foot is not in a great position and it's sort of stuck, it just gets stuck in one area. And today, leg before, was an instance of that front foot getting stuck and not making another movement to counter the line and length. With Rohit Sharma, you see that little step as a trigger movement, but then he's getting his front foot better out to those kind of deliveries. So Shubman Gill has a technical problem, but it's all really mental as to how he overcomes that. And the best guy to talk to in these type of situations is Virat Kohli, who had obvious weaknesses outside the off stump, but still is one of the all-time batting greats.
All right. Anderson did trouble Shubman Gill. He's troubled better batsman, more experienced batsman. He didn't give a run away, which begs the question on Jofra Archer. Saket Shindikar with this question on our YouTube. Would Archer have made a difference today, given how well Anderson bowled? Ian?
Good question. I mean, two very different style bowlers. I think the one thing I would say on Jimmy, and that was a really good point on Shubman Gill, is that Jimmy is the lengths he bowls can exploit any little weaknesses in defence, certainly footwork. So I think this will be great experience for a young player. We know how much talent he's got, but to face Jimmy Anderson and then have to go away and sort of figure out a few areas to get better, it's not always a bad thing. I think on the Archer thing, Jofra for me hasn't looked quite at his best in the series. We've expected him to come in. I remember that probably in the first Test match with the new ball was a really good spell. I think he got Rohit Sharma out early, and that's probably the best spell we've seen from him so far. So something doesn't look quite right. Obviously, there's word come out that he's got a little niggle. So it's a bit of a concern for England that we haven't quite seen him at his best. And we know when he's at his best, he's world class. So a bit of a concern that elbow's still not quite right at the moment.
If I can paraphrase that question for
also,
Saket.
Ronak, Jofra Archer
Saket
is not out of the side because of his bowling. It's more about England wanting to strengthen their batting, isn't it? They made a slight compromise there.
Okay, fair enough. But just with the way Siraj bowled, Anderson's a different sort of bowler. But could Archer have, looking at how Siraj bowled, could Archer have been a handful on this surface? Sanjay?
Yes, provided Archer is bowling as well as he did the first couple of spells of the series. Clearly, he would have had more of an impression with the new ball on the batsman as opposed to, say, somebody like a Ben Stokes. But England had obvious problems to cover. I mean, ideally, they would have loved to have somebody like an Archer on a pitch like this, or for that matter, Mark Wood. But then they would have had to leave out either a spinner or a batsman, which they couldn't afford to do. So as I said, this is a compromise, and there's no doubt Archer would have found something from this pitch. There is a little more bounce as well on this surface. So yes, but you can understand why Archer wasn't picked.
Okay. There's a very simple question to end today's Ask Match Day section. Ashish Pradhan, is this a good pick? Please. Sanjay.
Ian? Me? Okay. See, everything is relative in life. Everything is relative in life. Somebody sleeping on the pavement looks at a guy who's got a one-room kitchen place in Mumbai and says, wow, what a lucky man and what a rich guy. So compared to what we've seen in the last two Test matches, yes, comparatively.
Okay. Very.
Yeah, it's surprising we're still talking about pitches, isn't it? I think this has been a really good, even on a good pitch. This to me looks like a really good Test match pitch. It's offered a little bit for everyone. There's been some nice strokes. We've seen good drives down the ground. Seamers have been in the game. Is a little bit of spin. So far, I think it's been an excellent Test match pitch, and we shouldn't really. I suppose hopefully tomorrow we're not talking about wickets. We're talking about the quality of the cricket, which I think today has been a good Test match. Cricket in general has seen a bit of everything today, which to me sounds like it's been a good Test match pitch.
All right, Ashish Pradhan, if I could almost
quickly, let me also, also quickly, let me, apart from, comparatively calling this a better pitch, when you look at this pitch post-tee, it started looking like a turner, not maybe as vicious as the earlier two, but as it gets more and more sun, watch out for day 2 and 3 and we'll get a much better idea.
Very well. Well, I wonder if Ashish was just having a little tongue-in-cheek when he said, is this a good pitch? Finally, is this the right sort of pitch? But yeah, let's not talk about it. That's the whole theme. We'll end with that because that's just the customary tick mark for all of you who had any sort of conversations about it. But it's been a very good day of Test cricket. You think India on top, but still a lot to be played. We've seen batting collapses from both sides in this series already. Big thank you to Sanjay Manjrekar and Ian Bell. They will be with us as this Test match continues to roll on in Ahmedabad. Do keep sending your questions in with the hashtag AskMatchday, and we will be back with our coverage at lunchtime tomorrow on ESPN Cricket for Matchday, powered by Realme X7 5G and X7 Pro 5G. Bye-bye.